the American Constitutional Republic, affairs of state in Oklahoma, the beliefs, principles, opinions, and views of people just like me. This is 3D Politics. Every week featuring creator and curator of Sooner Politics, David Van, expert on Oklahoma state government. And of course, the founder and scholar at constitutionalgrounds.com, political leader, educational speaker, David Oldham. And me, your beautiful host, your verbal Viking, and of course, your political humorist, Tommy McKay, right here. And of course, you can catch me at verbalviking.com, David Van at soonerpolitics.org, and David Oldham at constitutionalgrounds.com. Welcome to the show once again, gentlemen. Congratulations on here we are again, another Memorial Day weekend. Hats off to those guys that made it work for us. Big news tonight. We got a big show. Donald Trump Jr. was scheduled to be on the show tonight. Now, I wasn't able to get a hold of him or anybody connected to him. He was scheduled. So if he comes in later, then we'll break it. He's scheduled. Donald Trump Jr. was scheduled, but haven't heard back from his office yet. But we do have Al Gerhart tonight. Coming up at the end of the half hour, Al Gerhart, he's going to expose the underbelly of corruption in state politics. I've got a quick story on Whirlpool proving out trickle-down economics that the leftists will always want to deny. Van with a couple of stories on the epic educational icons, Cheney and Harris, and of course the Tulsa race massacre being mostly peaceful. And the adventures of Oldham is going to talk about illegal attainders. And we've got all that sort of stuff coming up. So stick around. We got an exciting evening. The big stuff coming up. Al Gerhart. It's going to be like a Jerry Springer show.
Yeah.
Fight. So anyway, Al Gerhart at the bottom of the hour. But first, we've got to humanize ourselves. I've already humiliated myself to Donald Trump Jr., and I haven't heard from him, but we got to humanize ourselves. So what about you guys? Anything, what'd you do before we start the show to be human last week? What'd you do? Vote?
I am not a robot.
Finally, the most honest humanoid thing we ever got from the robot. I am a robot. Oh my gosh. Perfection's hard to pull off, Oldham. I know it.
It has been nice to have a long weekend. We started the weekend by working an overnight and killing ourselves for a second overnight in the week, and it's taken a lot longer to recover than it ever used to. I think my age is starting to catch up with me.
It's your wisdom.
Yeah. Speaking of age, do you guys catch any of the senior PGA this weekend? I tell you what, it was really a sight to behold, and a guy who just turned 50. No, not the golfers. They weren't wearing masks. I had one of those Sundays that I used to love to just veg out on a TV in the recliner and watch sports on TV with no politics, none. I mean, it was great. Golf,
isn't that nice?
And auto racing. Those are the two sports that they leave politics out of it. Thank God. So,
I mean, I've been watching soccer all weekend, so. But that's not really a sport, is it?
That's not a sport.
No, it's not.
WNBA.
Yeah, we've already been through
I want to see you try it. You keep up.
I got a hamstring
for an hour and a half.
I got a hamstring problem. So.
But what I want to say is, a guy who is a refugee from East Germany escaped with his dad, and then takes up the game of golf in a country where golf was illegal. It was bourgeois, right? And then he doesn't win any majors, and now he turns 50, and the first two majors he's in, after he turns 50, he wins. on the senior circuit, but
Oh,
again,
that's
it
great.
gives old guys like me some hope, you know? And it
Sure.
also gives me a downside. I can't blame my age for not exceeding greatness, you know?
Sure. That's right. Well, yeah, you got to give yourself a pat on the back
There you go.
every chance you can.
So,
For
yeah,
me,
it
I
was
know you guys are just want to dying to know what happened. You done that 23andMe thing where you check your DNA thing?
Yes.
Okay, so I did that checks your heritage and your roots and stuff, your DNA.
Mhm.
So if I find out originally I'm from Mecca, eventually I'm gonna have to face it.
That's awesome.
I don't know. I had
Maybe the Cherokees are God's chosen people.
I think it's just part of me because originally I was half Irish and half American Indian, which means I like to drink a lot and fight a lot, but I was always outnumbered. I couldn't hold my liquor. So what am I supposed to do? Oldham's like, okay, if you're gonna do that crap, I'm out of here.
No, Tom.
Oldham's out of here.
That's it. Not another joke tonight because you'll never surpass that one.
Oldham is like, I'm just not putting up with this crap. I'm out of here. Right?
You pressed his buttons. He went off the air.
Anyway, well, I'm gonna
maybe he wet his pants.
I think I'm gonna challenge it. But anyway, so here's
Tom. I got something to feed off that because my daughter just this weekend showed me her ancestry DNA thing.
Yeah.
And there's just no way it could be accurate because if I'm 20% something, she should be 10% that same thing, right? But no, she's 2% on something that I'm 20%.
That's what I'm saying, because that's the same thing that happened in my wife's thing. I continued to think she was like Sophia Loren, even though she's supposedly Lebanese, and then find out she's like 47% Italian. I told you were.
There you go.
I know.
That's awesome.
What happened to Oldham? He crashed out somehow.
His camera went on the blink. Maybe his
so
microphone too.
Here's the deal. Did you hear? There he is. He was just boycotting my bad joke.
See, it was your humor, Tom. I'm telling you, don't crack another joke tonight.
It's all right.
You've reached your pinnacle.
I'm okay.
You're saying my internet is horrible.
So you heard that Whirlpool is investing a bunch of money in their business here in Tulsa, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I've heard recently about how these left-oriented, progressive, anti-capitalists are like, oh yeah, trickle-down economics doesn't work. But then, when their big fascist corporate group thing comes together, Whirlpool, this is from source, Whirlpool Corporation. You'll hear it differently in the local news media, but from Whirlpool itself says headline: Whirlpool Corporation announces $15 million investment in Tulsa, Oklahoma factory to drive job creation, increase production capabilities. Additional $1 million provided by the state of Oklahoma to be used towards capital investment. Really, the big story here is that Oklahoma, in conjunction with this company who's going to invest in their own business. This is like, okay, I'm going to spend $15 million on me and my business. And then because I'm doing my business in Tulsa, then Oklahoma, through the Business Expansion Investment Program, BEIP, is going to kick in another $1 million. So this is this government picking winners, essentially saying, look, we're gonna help you do your business here. And I'm not against that at all. What I'm saying is this is an example of trickle-down economics, because ultimately it says through the funding from both parties, not just Whirlpool, but Oklahoma, that's taxpayers, you and me.
Yes, it is.
Whirlpool Corporation expects to create 150 new jobs. Okay, so private investment in their own personal private company, Whirlpool, literally pays off through trickle-down economics. That's my basic point to the whole deal. As a naysayer, I will also add that 150 jobs is like a drop in the bucket in a million person, population. But and I would guess that half of them are probably going to move here because it's never what you know, it's always who you know. But the point is, trickle-down economics works. Whirlpool here in Tulsa is an exact proof of that. They're going to invest in their own company. Tulsa's going to kick in $1 million, and then they're going to hire 150 people. It's how it pays off. Oldham, you back?
I'm back, I think. Technical
No more
problems on
jokes.
my end, it looks like.
No more jokes, I swear. I swear.
Oh,
God.
You killed my network.
God, what happened?
Yeah.
It's like giving my network a virus. That's what you did.
Come on.
well,
This
well,
is-
Oldham, you know, I want to respond to Tom and just get you up to speed about this pay to play. Basically, the government priming the pump through giving money to a factory like Whirlpool on the promise that, but look at all the jobs we're going to create, and they'll pay full taxes. We'll get tax breaks. The boss gets tax breaks, but the lowly employees are going to, you know, make up for it. And, you know, my thing is, I don't think Josh's Snow Cone Shack is getting that same kind of offer. And they're an exploding, expanding company in Oklahoma.
But see, I think this is when people, every state has a resource that is a benefit to that state. We have oil and gas, et cetera. Other states have other things. And to offer those industries a tax break or incentive to help, this is like blocking for your main running back. We want to use our resources and give them every opportunity to help the state economy. Am I wrong about that, Oldham?
Well, yeah, I mean, no, you're not wrong about that. You are absolutely right. That's what they say, but the problem is that it comes at the expense of everyone else. So Josh's Snow Cone Shack ends up paying a subsequently higher rate of tax because somebody else is getting it at a lesser amount. Sure, there's more money being brought in, but again, we're not being treated equally. Hey, if you've got enough people, we're gonna charge them less, and you're gonna pay more. That was the basis for the first rebellion and the one mistake that George Washington made as president.
Tell us about.
And that was that they gave breaks to higher volume whiskey distillers for the whiskey tax, and the Western Pennsylvania whiskey distillers rebelled.
The Shaw's Rebellion, right?
Now, there's a value to
whiskey
scale
rebellion. Yep.
There's a scale of economics. You buy more, you get it cheaper. There's a benefit to the
Not taxes.
But taxes, the problem with the taxes is because it's not equal. If everybody was paying 10%, we'd be done. It would be equal. But it's a progressive lying tax thing. If it wasn't a progressive tax one, you wouldn't have the snow shack being punished.
Well, and it should be more on a basis of usage. So if you don't use the government, you shouldn't be paying the government. You know what I mean? There's things that we all use that are
such as the fuel tax to fund the highways, right?
Yeah, if you are, and that's why the fuel tax is good, because you're using the fuel, meaning you're out on the roadways. Therefore, the amount that you use is the amount you
relatively
paying tax, wear and tear that you are providing to the economy. You know. And that is legit, that you pay to the extent you use it. A biblical example is David and his men protecting the sheep of Nabal, the fool.
So you're listening to David Oldham, constitutionalgrounds.com, explaining the benefit, in my opinion, of trickle-down economics. Joining us always, David Vann from SoonerPolitics.org, and I'm your host, the Verbal Viking, Tommy McKay from verbalviking.com. We've got to move on here. The basic concept of the story about Whirlpool is private investment does lead to trickle-down economics, as they call it, which benefits the community ultimately. We can argue about how we're going to do it, but that's the story on Whirlpool. Van, tell us about
the key thing there, though.
Go ahead.
The key thing there, though, is it must be private investment. If it is public investment, it's not investment. It is forced taxation,
confiscation,
and we don't get any benefit it's confiscation, and that use of other people's money is the problem. And if we were getting investor creds, if we were getting profits as investors individually for our contributions, different story. That's not what's going on.
Now, at the bottom of the hour, we're bringing Al Gerhart to talk about the underbelly of corruption in state politics with the AG, Attorney General Scott Hunter. Also, later, Oldham is going to talk about illegal attainders. But we've got two stories. I want to try to get out of this Whirlpool story, but I am in favor of giving tax breaks to gas and oil, the petroleum industry in Oklahoma. Is that a bad thing, guys?
Well, we did, and for much of the last decade, we've been giving the fracking, the horizontal wells, an incredible break. Instead of 7%, they were paying 2% for the bulk of the volume they pumped out in the first 2 years. So
my concept in general may not be wrong, but it might be abused to the exorbitant, percentage rate.
It was, yeah, but it sort of applies.
I guess the general concept I'm saying is if you've got a benefit to your state, if Mount Rushmore is in your state, then you help it benefit your state.
Mm-hmm.
It's like blocking for your running back. If gas and oil is what's in your state, you help it produce for the state.
Yeah. Yeah, and the sad thing is,
get out of the way.
Yeah, that's a good argument.
Getting out of the way.
Yeah, but I had this debate with our former state auditor when he was running for governor, Gary Jones. The argument was that the production tax on oil and gas is essentially kind of like a property tax. Because it's wealth they own, it's underground, we don't tax it until they pump it out of the ground. But they don't pay a property tax on it, unlike the factories such as Whirlpool, that's going to pay a pretty high property tax in that plant every year to local government. So it's kind of hard to find a perfect analogy, but there are ones that kind of work. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can just see
the biggest
things.
We need to look at everything and start thinking about reform. Again, really, rather than rates, what we should be looking at is what they're spending the money on, and that's the real problem.
Exactly.
The only reason that they're driving rates up is because they're illegally spending on programs they don't have any authority to spend.
Right.
Like a crack whore, they're running out of money. So Van, Van, tell us about the epic educational icons.
You bet.
Those that are shaking the world on both sides of the aisle. Cheney and Harris from Epic. What happened?
Well, I tell you, Epic has been a very big success story for Oklahoma and, for reform of education. And so I'm just going to put up here real quick the screen. Well, I thought I had it. Here we go.
Should be.
Here's our story. This is the guys, David Cheney and Ben Harris, a couple of guys I've known for 10 years and 25 years. And they are the most feared and the most beloved education leaders in Oklahoma. And they had to be taken down. And they must be sacrificed for the good of the education industry to misquote Caiaphas about Jesus. They had to protect themselves, so they got to take these two guys down. So you can find that on Sooner Politics front page. What's happened here with Epic is they've tried every year for the last 10 years, investigation after investigation. And they, the auditor came out with a hit piece on them, but the auditor had some points and they accepted them. Okay, Epic said, yeah, you're right, we missed that one. Yeah, you're right, we got to fix that. But the auditor got a ton of things wrong. Absolutely, just foolish and reckless presumptions, which is unlike what an auditor should be doing. They should be precise. That's what's called an audit. Well, anyway, so in order to assure that Epic charter would get to continue, they were told, okay, you got to get rid of these two fellas. Now, Cheney and Harris were not actually running Epic itself. They were the administrative services that was being contracted to actually operate some of the more unique aspects of it, the Student Learning Fund. It was a company called Epic Youth Services. And what's happened now is the school board for Epic had to basically say, yeah, we're not using Epic Youth Services anymore. And these fellas now are basically out of a job in Oklahoma. Now, I have to tell you, a lot more opportunities in California where they already operate virtual charter schools. So we'll see if Oklahoma is able to continue to keep these fellas engaged and involved. I will tell you, there has been talk of political office being discussed in the past, and I won't say I got my ear to the ground close and know what's going on now, but I haven't talked to either of these fellas in a few months. But I want to say they are the best innovators in education in Oklahoma in the last 40 years for sure.
Well, and they're picking up the kids who fall through the cracks from private school go to public school, and the kids who fall through those cracks go to Epic.
Yeah.
And I can see this, to me, from an outsider, it looks as though it's a standard socialist parasitic entity of the public schools that has continued to circle like piranhas, and finally preserve the functional infrastructure that these guys have built, but run them off. This is basic communism. This is Trotsky being run out by Stalin. I mean, this is just basic socialism. The parasitic socialists, the part of their plan is they wait for the capitalists to build, knowing we'll come in and take it over after they build it. That's literally the socialist workers' plan. So it's nothing more than simple socialism versus capitalism, and they've got to run those guys out as a scapegoat, but preserve Epic as an infrastructure because it's valuable and it saves the children. I mean, it's sick what they do.
Now,
and
here's the thing.
Your reference to Jesus is right. They're saving everyone and being crucified for it.
Right. Now, one of the things, there's a golden opportunity for others to step up here and provide the kind of services that Epic Youth Services had provided. And there's nothing to stop some other company or corporation from hiring these guys as consultants to their company. So there's ways around it. And the cool thing is if some...
Well, I was going to say, if Epic stopped being the parasite on the public schools, on public school money or public money, tax money, then they could continue any way they want. The problem is that they are being called out because they're using tax money, state tax money, and people don't like how that's being spent.
Well, yeah.
They are the best innovators, but, I mean, that is irrelevant when it comes to, our money, as it were.
Yeah.
Well, but the public schools are spending money on counselors. And I continue to say in my Facebook spat, counselors are not educators. I'm real sorry. Right. No, children need counseling. Well, that's not education. That's a psychologist. So quit telling me you're paying for education and teachers when you're buying psychologists. That's total bullcrap. Well, I'd rather pay Epic. I'd rather have Epic misspend my funds.
Epic says that at least 80% of the public funding goes into actual classroom instruction. Okay. The rest of Oklahoma's public education is well under 60%. So to get 82% is about as efficient as you can get. Now, how do they do that? One of the things, you just mentioned it. I'll say bus drivers. I'll say desks. I'll say books, because again, they're doing online. They pay a royalty for that curriculum, as they should. They cost money to develop good stuff. But school lunches, classrooms, lockers in the hall, all of it. All those things cost money. Epic has found a way to actually contract out. For instance, you may not have a football field, but your Epic students can join varsity teams such as NOAA, the homeschool team, and can play there. And you know what? Epic's going to take any residuals you have in your learning fund that you haven't spent on internet or a laptop and stuff. And they say, okay, for an approved athletic program, fine, send us the invoice, we'll pay them directly.
My guess is Epic has a lower incidence of teacher-student sex, and there's probably lower fraud in the cafeteria.
Yes. Now, the student-teacher ratio is actually
like zero fraud in the cafeteria.
Oh, that, yeah. The money we're losing in the cafeteria, they get paid on pieces of paper turned in, not lunches served. They had to turn that whole damn thing around. You show me children who got a lunch, and we'll pay you back for that. Don't send me 1,000 pieces of paper and then tell me you're differentiating between lower, like reduced rate lunch and free. Yeah. My God, if the kid needs a reduced rate on a $2 lunch, give it to him. You're full of crap if you're telling me there's a difference between reduced rate lunch and free lunch. That is bull crap. And it tells you they're tap dancing in the cafeteria. Fake news. Hey, we're running out of time because here comes Al Gerhart at the bottom of the hour. Do you want to run through this Tulsa race riot thing?
Let's save it. Let's save it. We can hold that. I've got a couple of more things I want to say.
Okay.
Epic, whereas your average public school teacher gets about $50,000, Epic teachers get on average 30% more, and they handle more students. So the best teachers are going to Epic. Oldham.
Mm-hmm. No, that's absolutely correct. And the big problem is, somebody's making money because they had the idea and they can actually make a profit off of it.
Yeah.
But the schools are doing it too. They're controlling a lot of money. They're not visually, taking it in personally, but they control all this money, and that is the same thing as possessing it yourself.
The greatest sin that was committed was they made the old public school system look bad, and you're just not allowed to do that.
But they run against the narrative. Oldham hit the nerve right there. Yeah. They're anti-capitalist and they're anti-profit. Sure. And that's the biggest part. You could be teaching the children goldenly, but if you're making $1, they hate that. Just like the petroleum industry.
They're anti-excellence. Because look, Epic, most of that extra money that the teachers get is through stipends for the performance of the kids academically. Your kid has, this student has a satisfactory academic year and progresses on, teacher gets $1,000. Well, if you got 35 students and 33 of them have academic success, that's 33 grand you just made in stipends. That's how you get the best out of workers, is you reward them for good work.
And the public schools has the opposite thing, where the worst teacher in the world sticks around forever because of tenure. They can bear their ass to the children in class and never get fired because it takes 2 years of bad report on a teacher before they even get brought up for an indictment to haul them out.
Yeah.
It's like forever to get anybody out. I can see Al Gerhart is ready to explore the underbelly of corruption coming up at the bottom of the hour. And also after that, I guess we'll get into the adventures of Oldham with illegal attainders. So we're going to reset at the bottom of the hour here, guys. Take yourself out, and we'll come right back with Al Gerhart talking about the Attorney General of Oklahoma and the underbelly of corruption in state politics. Stay tuned.
And Tommy, you are on the air.
Trust me.
The American Constitutional Republic. Affairs of state in Oklahoma. The beliefs, principles, opinions, and views of people just like me. This is 3D Politics. Every week on Facebook Live, 3D Politics with creator and curator of SoonerPolitics.org, David Van. Also, every week, David Oldham, founder and scholar at constitutionalgrounds.com. And of course, me, your fine director and host, Tommy McKay, your verbal Viking, comedian, and a political humorist. Here we go. Oh, also former mayoral candidate, but I'm over it. Never over it. Never over it. All right, so we have tonight Al Gerhart, the wrecking ball, to expose the underbelly of corruption in state politics. So let's go ahead and without further ado, let's see if we can bring Al in, let's beam him in. Should be joining. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. Al Gerhart has joined the 3D Politics gang for another exciting edition. Al Gerhart, thanks for joining us.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
All right. So we know that the Attorney General, I think it's Scott Hunter, right? Hunter, is it Scott? Scott Hunter. Is it Mike?
Hunter.
Mike.
Oh, Mike. Yeah, I get those two guys.
Scott Pruitt.
Scott Pruitt. So there it is, Hunter, the AG. There's just corruption running amok. But now, Al, it's been a long time, and I want to bring up, I've got a little minute and a half I want to play for you here.
Sure.
Right before I got into politics, you were already a big star out there. and so I did a thing called Tommy K Connecting the Dots, which was a news parody, and you were mentioned in it. So here it is. I'll bring this to you here. Here is my Tommy K news parody.
Connect the Dots with Tommy K is brought to you by the Armbar. Submit to the Armbar. Warning. Connect the Dots with Tommy K is a broadcast production that includes comedic content designed for those that listen and people who read. Punchlines from the headlines. If you don't know the news, you can't get the joke. Good morning, Tulsa. I'm Tommy K. And now news of the state. In light of the new law making mandatory the Pledge of Allegiance in public schools, Oklahoma Governor Mary Fallin has hired Al Gerhart, co-founder of the Sooner Tea Party, to help launch the new Pledge Allegiance campaign. Gerhart will help encourage kids from around the state to salute the flag by promoting his original slogan, or I will make sure you regret not doing it.
That's absolutely wonderful.
Fake news. Phony stuff.
You can't get the joke. Tommy K connecting the dots.
There you go.
Well, let me ask you a question. Did Mr. Brennan regret not doing it? That's what I would ask.
I thought
I
it
would
was
say-
ridiculous
Yeah, exactly.
that they even tried to hang you out for that. I mean, that was just really, that's
Well,
anyway.
Mr. Brennan lost the Senate race, and I think I was a small part of that. So, oh no,
All
that
right.
was a corporate commissioner race. Yeah.
That's right. He did. Yeah.
Because he felt, how did he put it? He felt threatened.
That funny feeling is what he.
Well, that is what I do. What can I say?
Well, I appreciate you being here. Okay, so here we go with the story. Al, you wrote just a hard-hitting smear piece on AG Hunter. So let's talk about the corruption. We understand the motivation had to do with sex, etc., but let's try to explain more about the corruption in the government. Tell us about it.
Well,
for our listeners, let's also give a brief synopsis of the full story,
Okay,
because
yes.
a lot of our listeners have not heard the story.
No, come on. All right.
Okay, I'll run through
You gotta run through it.
Last Friday, I guess it was, Mike Hunter, what was he, a 3-year AG, decided that he had to resign for personal matters that would become a distraction. So he decided to resign for the good of the office. He had, let's see here, he had filed for divorce against his wife of 40 years too. And the rumors that were coming out that basically he had been caught cheating on her, although it was kind of an open secret to a lot of people. So what really made it interesting was, I guess it was the same day or a day later, we have the charges being dropped against this appointee. What was he? Office of Digital Ostro, yes, David Ostro. Office of Digital Transformation or something like that. Cabinet position, Stitt's cabinet. And of course, he had been charged back, a grand jury had indicted him back in December, thanks to Mike Hunter, for bribery. And the story was a $5,000 bribe offered to tax commission officials, along with some threats that if they didn't do it, their budget appropriations would be cut. But this time all we knew was that Mr. Hunter, and then a few days later, the name of the alleged partner, Kimberly C. Bailey, came out, and it was let slip that she had filed for divorce back in April. Well, that was pretty easy to track down. And so we pretty much verified, yes, Kim C. Bailey had filed for divorce in Cleveland County, April of 2021. But when it really got interesting was when Mr. Ostro's charges got dropped. Now, $5,000. Who in the heck in their right mind with that kind of money is going to, it's a $5,000 tax bill. You just pay it. You don't start making threats to get senators, and committee heads to start threatening the tax commission, right?
Yeah.
Ludicrous.
And it wasn't his $5,000 tax bill either, right?
Good point. It allegedly belonged to a company owned by Jason Smalley.
Now you guys are way more involved with this and knowing better. So who owed the $5,000?
A guy by the name of Jason Smalley, a former senator, pretty high runner up there at the Senate. I think he was in leadership there for a while.
And how is he connected to Ostro?
Boy, that's a good question. I guess supposedly Ostro, according to the indictment, Ostro got I think it was another senator to go up to the tax commission and make threats, allegedly. Now, Smalley said he never met Ostro. I guess he probably knew who he was. He said he never met him. And so somehow or another, Ostro was carrying water for Jason Smalley, allegedly.
Okay. All right, so we don't know how Smalley's connected to Ostro, but Ostro's carrying water for him because Smalley's the one that owes the money.
Allegedly,
according to the AG.
According to the AG.
According to the Attorney General, Mike Hunter.
Yeah. And again, for those who don't understand, grand juries are basically where your accuser gets to go tell a story and you don't get to rebut it. And if they believe the rumor against you, you get indicted. Is that basically it?
I have testified before a grand jury against David Prater in 2012, which is what led to him coming after me in 2013.
Yeah.
And yes, you go in there and talk to the Attorney General. You're talking to the Attorney General or his deputy is basically questioning you in front of the grand jurors, and they just sit back and listen. Big old room, and you're sitting up there in a chair in front of everybody, and basically the AG is walking you through your story. So but of course the AG has got an enormous amount of clout in leading the state of law.
So the salaciousness, to get back to the salaciousness, is involved with the timing. I thought Van would like that. It has to do with the timing of the divorces. Is that right? I mean, it's because somehow the timing of these breakups of these two marriages. So one happened in April, and that was the Bailey. And then when did Hunter's divorce start?
A week ago.
It was, a week ago.
April. So,
No,
just like a month later.
It was a typo in L's story. It was May 21st he filed for divorce.
Yep,
She
just a few
filed
days.
in April.
A month before.
So
Now,
apparently
what-
the Bailey and Hunter are like, look, we're both going to break up with our special one, right? Because
Right.
they've got this thing. And apparently Hunter knew, well, I'm going to be quitting my job, right?
Well, it was a little bit more convoluted than that. I don't think
Okay.
either one of them had an idea they were going to break up and marry and live happily ever after. What actually happened, according to my sources, is that the Mr. Bailey just happens to pick up his wife's phone one day and saw something he shouldn't have, and that led to the uncovering of the affair. For as far as Mr. Bailey was concerned, like I said, it was an open secret down at the Capitol, and then she filed. Apparently, she filed divorce charges just I guess at some point in the future. So they were kind of pushed into it. I think what kind of happened here, if I was reading between the tea leaves there, I'd probably say that that Mr. Bailey or Mrs. Hunter probably got to Mr. Ostro and spilled the beans about this affair. And now it goes deeper than this, because Kim Bailey was a Burger King franchisee. So was David Ostro. I mean, these are usually successful people that get, leached into politics. They're good at what they do. They've made their money. Now they're bored. They're wanting another challenge. So here they come. And apparently there was a bit of competition and maybe some bad blood in between them. So Kim was being considered for this office of digital transformation, I believe it was called. And apparently Mr. Ostro shot her down. Basically went behind the scenes to the cabinet and got her pulled from the running. And I believe the guy was Lance Fry. Was that his name?
Well, yeah, but I think you got the office wrong. Wasn't it Commissioner of the Health Department that she was?
You're right. You're right. That's exactly it. You're right. That's exactly it. I'm sorry. Too much going on here. Yeah. So it was that health department office. Now, she was a general counsel at the time. You remember she was in the news with Julius Still. There was a guy. Yeah, there was a guy that she was having an affair with that worked for her, and they got caught, and she was in the news talking about that. So here's Miss Morals right there, firing other people for sleeping around on the job while she's doing it too for some time, apparently.
Yeah.
So Lance Fry gets the job. She's upset. So she leaves the health department, of course, doesn't want to work under the new guy, and lands a job over at the insurance department, I believe.
Right.
Now, this woman just came into politics in 2016, and all of a sudden she's just like stepping up to some of these, huge positions. And you got to understand, she was a lawyer for 20 years before that, and a Burger King franchisee. Yeah. And why does she
Bailey chick, right?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Yes, sir. But yeah, so there was some bad blood between Ostro and Bailey to start with, and of course, what we don't know is that who put the pressure on? Was it Kim Bailey? Was it Mike? I call him Hunter, as in Hunter Biden. Was it Kim, or was it Mike Hunter that put the pressure on, to get these charges filed? I guess it doesn't matter. I guess it was Hunter that pulled the trick. So it was really interesting whenever the shoe dropped, and there was Mr. Ostro's charges getting dismissed about this whole same time, and it kind of put all the story together. So.
I mean, I know it's me. So Ostro and Smalley and Bailey and Hunter are all on the same side.
No, I would say that Ostro and Stitt are on one side, and Bailey and Hunter are on the other.
Ostro.
Yeah.
And
so
because Bailey and Ostro,
Smalley has just been thrown into the mix as convenient. Maybe.
Bailey?
Yeah.
Or maybe he does owe money,
Smalley.
and things really did happen. But who knows, because the sex scandal gets in the way of potential justice being delivered.
This is exciting stuff going on here. You are listening to.
They did dismiss with no prejudice.
With that fine intercom whistle, we always reset it to 15 minutes. We got Al Gerhart exploring the underbelly of corruption in state politics with Hunter, as he calls him, Mike Hunter, having the SEX with some hot chick named Bailey. And I don't know, I just threw that in as a kind of an op-ed. But also every week, David Van and David Oldham with me right here, Tommy McCann, 3D Politics. Okay, back to the story. So this Bailey chick, did I see a picture of her in the story? She's got
Yeah.
the blonde hair.
Yeah.
Super cute. So, I mean, that's a problem right off the bat.
No, hang on. I originally had the wrong picture, and David corrected me on that. Thank you, David.
The
And
current
it's
one's up right
that's
now.
two. That's two, Al. That's two. He's
Yeah.
correct on.
she's not that cute. I mean, she's you know, I'm gonna get in trouble
That's
here,
what we're
I guess.
going
but,
by.
yeah.
No, you don't care,
I
Al.
don't, you know, look, can I biggie size that at the Burger King?
Yeah.
Well,
I don't
want it. Al, where does it go from here,
We
both
are just
legally and
off the
politically?
edge.
Well, what's interesting about this is that Hunter resigning. This is one of David Prater's classic moves: resign or I won't charge you. So
That's
we don't know
another
the depth.
narrative.
Hunter
course.
had to
And
know.
he's done this over and over again in public.
So isn't this really a romance story where Hunter?
I'm sorry, I lost you.
Isn't this really a romance? I'm sorry. Isn't this really a romance story, Al, about Hunter loving this hot chick so much that he's willing to give up his attorney general role and damn the state?
No, I'd say it's more of a rivalry between Hunter, Mike Hunter, and Governor Stitt.
All right,
And
Van,
this is
save
all
us,
back
save
to.
us here, Van. Tell me
Oh
what
yeah,
I'm doing wrong.
yeah.
here.
I think Hunter would like us to believe that this is just it was just sex, right? It was just sex. But Oklahoma can't handle it, so I'm going to resign. But I think what Al's saying is, no, don't pay attention to that. This is a criminal attempt to have somebody framed and put in prison. Oscar.
Well, remember, what was this scandal? We talked about it about a year ago. Who was it that was running for office and was
Caputo?
approached by the AG?
Yes,
the deputy-
Caputo's office. That
Caputo,
James
that's
Caputo,
correct.
a Tulsa County District Court judge,
That's right.
resign tonight or you're going to get indicted tomorrow. And Caputo
Exactly.
said, no,
We
I ain't
talked about it on
resigning. And
this
you know what? There's
show.
never an indictment.
Okay, so
And that
these are-
was Hunter's. That was
Yes.
under Hunter,
Yes.
his deputy.
Yes.
So
so
so-
these
no,
are white.
There's way more going on here.
It's a pattern is what you're saying. And yes, I agree. It is a pattern.
These are white collar crimes. Am I right?
Yeah. Political crimes. Yeah. You know,
Is it criminal or
extortion.
not? Is it criminal or not?
Extortion,
Oh, yeah.
bribery.
Okay,
It's
so it's
bribery, it's
criminal.
extortion.
If they then these are white collar crimes, just like Eric Holder being held in contempt of Congress for the first time, right? First,
It would be malicious prosecution, which would probably be a felony. It'd be awful,
Yes.
awful high standard.
so the reason I'm bringing that out is because to the bigger point of the general unrest where it exists in America today, they talk about the police are bad and this and that are bad. The problem is not that the low level cop is not being held accountable. The problem is that Eric Holder, the high level cop's not being held accountable.
Oh.
Hillary Clinton's not being held accountable. Hunter's not being held accountable. These people at a high level, white collar criminals are not being held accountable. That's what's creating the unrest.
Look what they did to Trump. Look at how many FBI directors tried to railroad Trump. Yeah. This is yeah.
They're punishing the low level criminal. Chauvin, whoever his name is, that had his knee on Floyd's neck, he's gonna ride. He's gonna writhe in pain. He's gonna go off to jail, be there forever. The low level criminals always pay the price. What is infuriating everybody and making them riot is because Hillary Clinton, Eric Holder, Bill Clinton, these high level F faces don't ever pay the price. Okay, Benghazi and all the way down. And like you're saying, it comes down to the state level with Hunter. He's banging some hot chick on the side, and he's just going to get out of it. And somebody else is going to get out of the extortion game, and no one's going to know because they're all worried about the sex.
Do you remember Chris Kennedy and the whole sexual scandal there?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Well, the backstory was pretty simple. Basically, the House leadership came to me and asked me to clear him out of the way, and to bring that story back from 6 months before. And I had to ask, why do you want me to do this? Well, he's become a threat to House leadership. Okay. Initially, I was a little bit disappointed that they only investigated one of what was it, one of 4 cases, I believe it was, and including an attorney who was basically had approached me, on behalf of the 4th victim. There was allegedly a 5th victim too, a woman that worked for the nurses, some kind of a nurses lobby organization or something. But anyway, whenever he walked off, you had to feel a little disappointed that he got off, but at the same time, you also have to understand the realities of what we're dealing with. If they take one of their own down, he can probably take them down as well. That is the depth of the corruption that we're working with. You've got the AG's office basically controlled by the AG. What we really need to do is to find a way to get legislation passed or a constitutional change where the AG's office has no control over the grand juries. That
Al, you just broke something really big. I've not seen you write a story where you tell that narrative publicly about being asked to bring the details about Kennedy. Have you published this before?
I have not, and there's a lot that I don't write about.
Well, you just put it out there tonight.
I did indeed.
So we can tell everybody to not talk about it.
Would you like to elaborate since you're being reckless, Al?
Well,
everybody, the jury just disregard the last minute and a half.
Kennedy had McLean on the ropes, and McLean knew it.
McLean? You mean McCall?
McCall. I'm sorry, Charles McCall.
Al, that's 3. Dang it, you're in trouble right now. This is 3D scrutiny. So all right, so let's wrap this puppy up. We've only got about 8 minutes left. And we're either going to get to the adventures of Oldham or not tonight. But what else to wrap this story up? There's a lot of salacious details. I wish I wouldn't have been misled by the other picture, because the little blonde picture, she was cute. And I thought, man, that poor Hunter, he had a lot to deal with on that.
I hated to disappoint
Goliath. She was involved.
But it's amazing what,
Oldham to have been 20 years a lawyer before she became a Burger King franchisee.
You gotta wonder, was it the intellect or was it the burgers?
Yeah, I think don't they have a fish sandwich?
Yeah.
Oh, Al.
But anyway,
oh my gosh.
Al, any predictions
you
on
opened the door?
I did.
Al, any predictions on what kind of a person Stitt's going to appoint to finish out that term as Attorney General?
Well, let's see. That's a great question. I hope it's not Drummer. What's his name? Drummond somebody?
Gentner
Drummond.
Yeah,
he's kind of an outsider for sure.
Yeah, he's got his own little scandal trail following him around as well. But he's got a lot of money, and you just never know. But
it's a golden appointment, right, Al? This is a powerful appointment.
It is.
I mean, to quote Blago, this is gold, and I'm not going to give it away.
Well, I think wild card is going to be Ostro. What does he do? Because he's been maligned badly, and he's probably going to want to see justice done. So he might.
Okay, I mean, because I am dense and slow. So do you think Ostro's a good guy?
I have no idea.
Well, he sounds like a victim to me. Stitt was cheering publicly when he got exonerated.
Okay, Oldham, what'd you say?
Yeah. It doesn't matter if he's a good guy. It matters that injustice criminality has been committed by the AG. That's come out. We need to deal with Ostro if Ostro needs dealing with.
So
the Boy Scout has spoken.
The AI has spoken. So, but the point is, and really this is the point, is that it's and thank you, Al, for bringing out the salacious underbelly, but it is not the sex of the story that's the problem. Am I right, Oldham? It's the criminality, and the criminality is what? Specifically what?
And let's understand that Mike Hunter has proven himself over and again to be a horrible excuse for a human. The thing is that we see it not only from this now finally coming out, all the dark underbelly of his life that we're now seeing, but we also see it daily in his public actions. I mean, when he sends his deputies to argue that sin taxes are lawful at the Supreme Court, that he commits these crimes in front of everybody, should be something that we all should see. That we now see an underbelly should be just, we should just go, oh yeah, well, I knew there was something there. Now I know what.
All right, Van.
Okay, I got to warn Al. With that tirade from Oldham, look out, Al. He's trying to take over your market share. I tell you what.
Let him have it. Welcome to the fight.
You can have it, yeah. I was like, oh yeah, really?
Real fishing.
No, I'm thankful for Al and the investigative work he's doing.
Yes.
But we should realize that the public record has so much criminality contained within it. They do this stuff openly in front of all of us every single day without compunction, and that should be what is that's our shame. Yeah. It's great that Al will dig in and find the dark side of things, because that's what people really want to glom onto. But we have the public record every single day.
Well, also, and I think, with the story last time, there was a time back or two when you were on, Al, talking about Jameson, and you were trying to bring up his lack of morals. He's been, whatever the issues with him being evicted or whatever. And I, at the time, I'm minimizing that. It's like, I don't care about if someone's been evicted, let's talk about policies. I don't care about Caitlyn Jenner, whether this or that. Let's talk about policies. But really, consistently, Al, you're kind of bringing to light the idea that if your morals, like a libertarian, I cut the tongues out of 2 or 3 libertarians over the weekend, and that's funny. And so, but the idea that you can just go around expecting low morals from the general populace, but then expect high morals somehow from your elected leaders. It literally doesn't work that way. You can't have low morals going on, whether it's being evicted or having sex with your secretary, and then expect those guys to represent us responsibly. So I appreciate your work you do, Al, and I appreciate you being here tonight also.
Well, character is important, like you just said, in our public officials, even the people that lead our activists and the people that lead our party. You've got to have character. And I know sometimes I look like I'm judgmental, and I'll tell you the truth. I'm a human being like everybody else, but I don't see myself out there trying to lead anything. Okay.
Except Oldham. He's no damned human being.
I am too.
But one other thing that's really important is that, number one, I don't dig this stuff up. People bring it to me, and that's the difference.
That's true.
And I'm known for keeping confidences, and that's why they bring it to me, because they feel.
And so tell everybody where to find you, Al, to find out more about you and what you're going to talk about next.
Oh, algerhart.blogspot.com, or you can find me on David Van's Center Politics page, his website.
Yep. Sign up for the newsletter, right?
Yeah.
It's every Sunday night.
See. Yeah, it's just the blog spot now, I guess. We're no longer doing a newsletter. We kind of got deplatformed, I guess you call it.
That's what they do. Yes, that means you're effective. Nice job.
Well, guys, thanks for having me on. And
very good. We're going to send you out.
Story.
Okay, Al, thanks for being here once again. The Wrecking Ball, Al Gerhart, Sooner Tea Party co-founder. We're going to send you out right here with the. There it is, Al. Thanks for being here. Great work.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
There you go, guys.
Night.
All right, there goes Al. Now, gentlemen, we've got just about one. In fact, you'll notice right now, because of the, you're listening once again to Tommy McKay, your fine verbal Viking, right here on 3D Politics Live every Monday on Facebook Live with David Van from SoonerPolitics.org and David Oldham from constitutionalgrounds.com. Now, gentlemen, do you want to come back again?
I think we just reset, didn't we?
Let's reset and let's finish. Let's get through these 2 stories that we have.
All right, let's take a break and we'll come back. We're coming back for another couple of stories, so hang tight. Take yourselves out. We'll reset. the American Constitutional Republic, affairs of state in Oklahoma, the beliefs, principles, opinions, and views of people just like me. This is 3D Politics. Every week and live on Facebook with David Vann, creator and curator of Sooner Politics, David Oldham, founder and scholar at Constitutional Grounds, and of course me, your verbal Viking, director and host of 3D Politics every week right here on Facebook Live. Here we are again. Gentlemen, we just kicked it down with Al Gerhart. That was exciting, wasn't it? We were right on the edge there. And I got to say, I am so dense, I can barely follow the story. There is so much to the Ostro and the other guy and the chick and the hunter. And it's so hard. I can't hardly follow. I don't even. And then who's the chick married to? The poor Bailey guy. What is he, like a putz with nothing going on? Can he not fight for a living? What the hell? I don't know this guy. He's got a cute wife. I don't know.
Al Gerhart's got that article. Al Gerhart's got that article on front page of SoonerPolitics.org. And I agree with you. You actually have to study and get familiar. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult.
There's a lot. I mean, it's intricate like Harry Potter. It's just, there's so much to it. I couldn't follow it. Yeah, but when you started adding the Burger King franchisee thing, I was lost at that point. Because I didn't see how that.
She's had a lot of jobs. She's been an attorney. She then started a Burger King franchise, and then she became an attorney for the state and went into political legal work.
So the personal stuff with the Burger King became an issue inside the political thing.
Yes,
because so it was a person. Well, that helps.
Dealing via Burger King.
Oh God! All right.
Whether or not that actually has any bearing, who knows?
No, but I appreciate you, Oldham, bringing out the focus that I desired from the very beginning. We set the thing up was that it's like I just, all of the dirt is really not the important thing. It's with the criminality. Those are the issues. But it's interesting. Go ahead, Van.
I mean, let's face it. Bill Clinton was not impeached for having an affair with Paula Jones. He was impeached for lying to a judge.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was actually disbarred by the Arkansas bar because as an officer of the court, that's one of the things you get disbarred for, is giving false testimony.
The whole step thing for the general public, they think Monica Lewinsky. No, it was Paula Jones, and then it wasn't even really Paula Jones. It was the perjury charge. I mean, it's like, damn, he perjured himself, So it's not just like it's what he does in his private business. You mean like perjure himself during a grand jury?
Well, and listen,
do you remember his out was it depends upon your definition of is.
What the word is. That's
but again, the stained blue dress.
4-year-old.
The stained blue dress became the smoking gun because it proved not that he had sexual relations. It's because it proved that he lied to a judge.
Right. So it's again, the public thinks it's because you're trying to hang up because he has sex. No, like Oldham says, he's because he's a lie. He's a lie. He lies.
But you know what? The point Oldham was getting at, and I think is important, there is a prosecutor by the name of Bruce Nifong, our former prosecutor, the Duke Lacrosse case. He knew these women were lying. He knew they were discredited, but he wanted to go after because politically this was gold for him in the Democrat primary for re-election. And you know what? He got burned. He went to prison, and he didn't go to prison long enough because here's my thing. When you're going to convict somebody for something that they would normally spend 20 years in prison for, just your malicious conviction ought to carry the sentence that the victim would have got had you been successful.
Oh, absolutely. And the false witnesses should be getting that sentence as well.
And you can make an
Because-
argument
so
that
the
it
false
should be
witnesses, the
triple.
prosecutor-
I mean, what does Proverbs say? If a man steals because he's hungry, okay, you can understand it. But if he gets caught, make him pay 3 times back.
Well, there's that, but Scripture actually deals with the false witness and says that they are to get whatever
Okay.
the punishment would have been for the crime. So
Right.
so if it was a death penalty case and they're a false witness, they get death.
Yeah.
That would solve all this false witness
Yeah.
stuff in courts. Would
Right.
end it.
No, specifically, you got to say malicious false witness. Not mistaken, but maliciously lying. You know it's a lie. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, no, I mean, somebody mistaken isn't a yes. Yeah, I mean, yes. It's somebody who is a deliberate false witness. Yeah, in which you would require
Well,
proof.
what you guys are talking about in general is the use of law or policy of law
The
as a
misuse of the law.
deterrent. And
Mhm.
when I was younger, when I was like 3 or 4, I would argue that there was, especially talking about drug law. People says, we got to have laws against heroin use, and I would say, well, there's really no law. The law against robbing a Quick Trip or doing heroin has no effect on me. If they said fine, it's legal, I wouldn't do heroin or rob. It's just like there's no effect on me.
Yeah.
Okay, but in my older age, now that I'm 13 and 14, I'm seeing now that what you're saying is that there's a value of deterrent in law. Is that true? Because see, like with gun laws,
Well,
I don't give a damn about gun laws because the people who break guns, they don't care your gun laws. Okay, but there is a certain value to a deterrent
Mhm.
value in laws. Am I right or no?
Well, yeah, I gave it the example
Well,
of a
there
guy
should be.
stealing food.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I used to think, no, there is no deterrent except for the law in the law binding. The guy who's gonna, well, I guess I got, now I'm flopping back. Now I've convinced myself back because a guy who's going to steal food, regardless, is going to steal food regardless. He's not going to care your law. You know what I'm saying? If you're
well,
not a
he'll end up
law-abiding
with food
citizen,
regularly if he gets caught.
Well, but I think there's also a principle of proportionality here and a cap. You don't punish somebody for more than 3 times the victimization.
so what about the guy?
Well,
And
I
this
mean,
is a real life.
that's a political issue. That's a political decision.
Well, I'm just
that
using the
public will
scripture I
decide.
quoted to you from Proverbs about a man who
Well,
steals
there's
should
also
pay back
scripture
3
that
times.
says 7 times. There's also scripture that says 7 times. So
I don't
Yeah,
it
I
runs,
appreciate,
it runs
okay,
the gamut.
but Oldham, that still underscores the proportionality.
yeah, I appreciate Van throwing
Sure.
softballs.
Oh, I agree.
everywhere.
Well, the thing is that when you're talking proportionality, our problem isn't so much. Well, our problem is one, inappropriate or improper proportionality. The other thing is that we have prohibitions against things that aren't illegal, that are just exercise of right, exercise of our liberty. And that is the real problem, because as you build all these illegal, statutes, what happens is pretty soon everybody goes, everything's illegal, screw the law, I don't believe in it anymore. And it has no real deterrent effect.
Right.
If though, because we don't need a drunk driving law, we need a law that says if you kill somebody while you're, if you're drunk driving and you kill somebody, chop your head off. That would end it.
How about let's hold our elected officials accountable, like you said before, because the guy that hit my mom as a drunk driver, do you think it was his first DUI? No, it's like 12. Okay. And the people who are drunk driving chronically, and he was out on probation, and they're not even keeping these people. Okay. So what I'm saying is that it's not like a guy is a drunk driver one time. It's usually he's done it 10, 12, 15 times. Okay. So I mean, we're the people aren't even the people we're paying to do the job aren't doing the job. It's like the public schools; they're not even
Correct.
educating the children.
I think we need to reconsider exiling as a part of our punitive system. You know, you're out of here. You know, don't come back.
Yeah, we should annex
everybody
Cuba
should
and
read your-
put Al Gerhart in charge
Ship
of it.
them to California.
Everybody down there.
California
Not-
might have something to
not
say
me,
about that.
Yeah, but they're California.
Even though they don't deserve it, but
No, but I mean, there's so many
just tell them they're
breakdowns.
illegals. They'll take them in.
Well, we already do that with sex offenders, right? There's certain parts of town they're not allowed to live in. So it's an exile
true.
law, and
That's
it's a life sentence, right? That exile is,
True.
you know. So,
Yeah, well,
you know,
talk
I
about
think we-
improper
Hey.
proportionality.
What if you're a sex offender but you've been vaccinated? Can you get a couple 100 feet closer to children at the school?
And maybe even closer if you wear a mask, so nobody can
Yeah.
tell who you are.
I'm like 5 more feet and I'm to the tetherball.
yeah.
So,
Okay.
Van, so I'm going to give Van one more chance because we lit it up. Do you want to touch that Tulsa race massacre mostly?
Well, I'll give you a quick recap. Folks can go to soonerpolitics.org. I'm on the front page. We had a march, okay? They went by Tom's neighborhood. Actually, they started in Tom's neighborhood. It was the Black Panthers started it, and a bunch of minority gun clubs really got involved in it. And you know what? It went off slick as could be. And you know what? People, yeah, there were some people grumbling, but for the most part, we left them alone. I talked to Michael Bates. He was downtown for a lot of the weekend. He is covering a lot of the stuff. By the way, he's got a great blog. Has to do with why tonight's big concert got canceled. Would have got rained out anyway. But anyway, so that's
Are
an
you talking
interesting-
about the John Legend, Chrissy Teigen's forehead concert?
Yeah, all of those.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and listen, there are people there who don't want a solution. They want the issue to continue on, to beat our heads over it. And I'm talking about the Crutcher family. Okay. Now, I want to get on to something else here. Even though no guns were misfired, everybody behaved on this march, and they went down ML King Boulevard from almost Pine. They started, went down, cut around the campus because you're not supposed to have guns on campus. It's still illegal on college campuses. In the OSU Tulsa, they had to go around the north edge of there. I went down, you know, to say hi to everybody at the Greenwood Cultural Center, and then they marched up Greenwood Avenue to Pine, circled around, went back to the cars. Everybody went home. It went great. It was fantastic. It was great optics. It freaked out the East Coast liberals, you know, because now the blacks are carrying guns openly when, you know, they just can't have that. But then later that night, we had right there where the parade started, a couple of guys shot. At least one of them died. The other one, they're not even knowing if he's going to make it. And then a couple of gals, you know, black women got arrested in East Tulsa early in the day because they're arguing, and a gun goes off, goes through the wall of their apartment and kills the guy, or at least he may be brain dead. I don't know that he's dead, but they don't expect, the cops didn't expect him to live. So those two black young women got arrested on manslaughter. They're in jail, and another dead body ends up in North Tulsa, Pine and Lewis area. I think I understand. So listen. Gun rights are important. They belong to everybody, but so does responsibility belong to all of us. And so that's the narrative I wanted to say in this. Good. I'm glad everybody has a right of self-defense. I just hope everybody keeps their butts out of jail, keeps their butts out of the I was going to say electric chair, but we don't have one in Oklahoma.
No, we
Yeah,
got
but
a vibrating
here's the
chair.
thing. Yeah. Okay.
Hey,
And
you guys are listening to David Van finalizing his concept on the mostly peaceful Tulsa race massacre remembrance, and with David Oldham and Tommy McKay right here every week on Facebook Live with 3D Politics Live. Go ahead, Van, finish it up, and then we're going to move to
so
Oldham's illegal attainders.
Right. So I thought we were going to have a big mess this weekend because it was raining cats and dogs Thursday and Friday. I thought we might be sandbagging the Arkansas River and wondering how many of the out-of-towners were actually going to stick around and help the city out. But fortunately, it cleared. The golf tournament was a huge success over at Southern Hills. And so it turned out so far into a great weekend for everybody.
Not bad, not
So
bad.
I have a
Other than
question.
the dead people.
Exactly. Well, they're not having a great weekend.
Yeah.
The question is, have you done a story on the Rise and Shine event? Was that the concert you guys were talking about, or is that something else? Are you familiar with
No.
the Rise and Shine?
The big
And that's,
Hollywood
that was the
star-studded thing for
Biden
tonight.
and Stacey Abrams were going to come to, and
Those are separate things. Biden is evidently still on for tomorrow to come into town, which means if you live between downtown and the airport,
I thought
good
that
luck
event
driving.
was canceled and he wasn't
No,
coming.
no, Biden is not canceled, but the John Legend Stacey
Right.
Abrams $1 million extortion.
That was a Monday event. That was supposed to be tonight. That's canceled. Would have been rained out
Okay,
anyway,
okay.
folks. Okay.
But Biden's supposed
hopefully-
to be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
Hopefully, Chrissy Teigen,
Okay.
the size of her forehead, she'll be able to take out advertising and make up for the loss for the Legend family.
Okay.
They're huge.
Okay, so here was the question. Here's my question about the Rise and Shine event, this event that you were saying was canceled.
Yes.
One of the things was a $50 million, apparently was a $50 million demand by a lawyer on the promoters for survivor descendants of the 100-year-old massacre riot.
Not, you're sort of right.
That was why the thing got canceled.
Okay.
Was-
No,
is
you're
there
sort of
any-
right.
All right, here it is, right here.
The
Man.
agreement that was made about 10 days earlier was 100,000 for each of the 3 survivors. Okay.
Boom.
And then it was going to be, I think, 2 million in a trust fund for kind of a more general reparations fund handled by a trust. Get this, my source, a very prominent Tulsan, called me up, said, Dave, you're on to things here. I think it was Friday he called me, and he said that trust was going to be run by Crutcher's sister, his twin sister. Okay. Now, I'm not calling anybody a race baiter here, but what I'm going to say is all of a sudden, a few days beforehand, the lawyer says, nope, that's no longer acceptable. We don't want 100,000 for each survivor. We want $1 million. We don't want 2 million for this trust fund or something like that.
Okay,
we want 50 million.
This gets
Where was all this money going to come from? That was
well, that was the
ultimately
thing.
what I'm driving at.
In order for them to sponsor the event, they were going to have to come up with that money through donors. And now Senator Matthews, who is head of this commission, he was finding corporate sponsors and others willing to be, you give money, in other words, shaking them down, just like every other race baiter does, you know. But, well, it could be a positive thing, not just a threat like, you know, Jesse Jackson's known for. But anyway, so, yeah, here's the thing. It shows a pattern that John Legend and his people, maybe Stacey Abrams, this kind of conduct signals somebody who doesn't want a solution. They want unrest. They need something to gripe about. They need to perpetually be victimized. I mean, it's just like, what's his name? Colin Kaepernick was whining because nobody would give him a tryout. So they give him a tryout. And he says, no, I'm not going to the stadium. I'm going to do it over here at the high school. And I said, you know what? He doesn't want to try out. He wants the issue to keep beating him over the head with. That's my take on it.
You're describing a purposeful self-sabotage.
Yes.
And the concept, it can be applied in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But I mean, the idea from your girlfriend to the race baiters is the idea that if the argument benefits me opportunistically now more than fixing the problem,
yes,
this is the argument they use against the cancer thing.
Yeah,
it's like, you guys have been fighting cancer for 1 million years. You don't want to win. You just
about-
want to continue to fight cancer.
How about fighting
Oh, there's
abortion?
lots of money in that.
There's a
Right.
lot of people arguing that the
Right.
national right to life doesn't really want to end abortion. I'm just saying that's a narrative
It's
out
not
there,
your
and a lot of our
concept.
abolitionist friends have been saying that. And listen,
Mhm.
I think they've got a valid point.
True.
When you're a
very true.
think tank in Washington, the last thing you want is for your cause to be resolved, because then you got to go find a new job.
It's like the AFT in Waco. Yes, I said it. AFT. He's the president. It's the AFT. When the AFT, that thing, when the AFT burns down that thing in Waco, we just, it's the thing. You remember
Okay.
that thing?
You should have stopped earlier, Tom. Tom, the pendulum swings. When you hit a home run, you might strike
Yeah,
out.
but when I strike out, man, it hurts, doesn't it?
you're still on. You're over. I mean,
Shall we call you Casey?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
anyway, so yeah, that's what seems to be going on according to a number of narratives.
Okay.
And I've been collaborating a little bit with Michael Bates. He's written some great research on it. He's really a good historian in Tulsa. I encourage you to follow
Yeah, he did. He had a
batesline.com.
piece on how the Black Wall Street was rebuilt, and it was LBJ's urban renewal that ruined it after that.
Yeah, you could say that. And
that was kind of the oversight.
And you know what? There's been some great people in Tulsa helping be part of the solution. My friend Henry Primo joined the Greenwood Chamber of Commerce and developed a mentoring program where he got some of the best businessmen in the state willing to help young Black entrepreneurs. Those are the kinds of things where, okay, if you want a solution, we'll get you the help. But if you want to keep on being a perpetual victim, well, I'm sorry. We're just, go sell that somewhere else. We're full up here.
Yeah,
To quote Jack Nicholson.
the AFT always continues to bring another event where they create a thing that makes themselves required.
Yes.
It's what government does. It's
Yes.
a standard procedure. They create a problem that they're going to come in to fix.
The closest thing,
Brilliant.
quoting Ronald Reagan, the closest thing there is to eternal life here on earth is a government program.
Oh boy. So, on my website, verbalviking.com, I just published another blog about the
Good.
Reagan recovery. You should check that out.
All right.
Because it's got a bullet point, like for anybody who wants to argue why we should lower tax rates generally to raise revenue generally.
Yep.
I've got all the bullet. I didn't even write an article. I just bullet pointed.
There you go.
Check that
There you
out
go.
at verbalviking.com.
Thank you for
And
sparing
also,
us the rant.
just trying to save my reputation from the last 10 minutes. And then also joining us always, David Vann, creator and curator of Sooner Politics, David Oldham, founder and scholar at constitutionalgrounds.com. Oldham, tell us about illegal attainders before we get out of here.
Well, we've led into this, and it was part of the reason for my questioning, but we've led into this because we've been talking about reparations, and when things like that are taxed, they are based on and you've been mentioning, Tom, about the ATF. You call them AFT, I love it, but for everybody else, the ATF. These organizations or these schemes are all based on the selling that you and I are undeserving of our freedom. Okay? That we are somehow tainted as human beings and therefore need to be controlled somehow by government. We need to make reparations for what we have done, whether we know we have done it or not. We need to, and whether or not it could ever be proved in court. Now, an attainder is very simply a tainting. It comes from the same root word. And so the only way in America that free people can be tainted by our neighbors and actually have something done to us to deprive us of our life, liberty, or property is through due process of law. In other words, a court, that we actually have something proved that we have harmed others and therefore deserve to be at a loss of our life, liberty, or property.
Okay.
Well, an illegal attainder is one that is done by an executive or the legislative branch outside of the judicial. In other words, they just declare, hey, what did we have last year? We had people being declared what? Non-essential.
Non-essential.
And therefore, you're deprived of your work and your livelihood, your property that you could have made, potentially even, and your liberty. Hey, you got to be shut up in your home. You're just human vermin. You're
Right.
outside, you're spreading disease. That's just what you are. Those are actually attainders, and we have them everywhere. Our lives are filled with these illegal attainders. Now, there's two places in the Constitution, both in Article 1, that attainders are specifically prohibited, both the federal and the state government.
Okay.
And they say in Article 1, Section 9 and Section 10, Section 9 deals with the feds, Section 10 deals with the states, that no government in the United States may pass a bill of attainder. Now, bills of attainder are they go through the legislature, and we have experienced something that our founders, quite frankly, never expected that we would experience. And that was dictates from the executive looked on as though they were law, and that governors and the president could just dictate all of these things, or the president's underlings, and that governors and mayors and so forth would just make these dictates irrespective of law or the legislatures, and even then the legislatures were disallowed, specifically disallowed, without proof of an individual doing something wrong to somebody else. You cannot be held and deprived of your life, liberty, or property. That's what an illegal attainder is, and I dare everybody, I exhort everybody to look and find them everywhere, because they're everywhere. ATF is founded on the very belief that you don't have a right to exercise your liberty in the use of tobacco, your use of alcohol, or the use of guns. That's what they're about. And that's what they do. Your driver's licenses are founded on the fact that they say you don't have a right to operate a vehicle. You have to prove to us that you can do so before we allow you. Okay.
So if you're right, Oldham, so if you're right in your understanding and description of reality, the fact is that perception rules the day. They don't believe what you're saying is true. They believe that they live within a restricted world, and so then they do.
Well, yes, we the people now have bought into the lie, and I believe suffer from Stockholm syndrome and the slave mentality, the slave or the serf mentality, that we actually have to submit to these people when our law says just the opposite. And here's the thing: if you stop and think about it, what is a reparation? A reparation is money taken from you who had nothing to do whatsoever with slavery to pay back descendants who had nothing to do with slavery for supposed crimes committed by others against their parents. Or
everything unconnected. You're listening to the brilliance of David Oldham, founder and scholar, constitutionalgrounds.com. Van, what else you got?
Well, listen, this idea that they're talking about, the Democrats are talking about, well, again, guaranteed basic income, guaranteed housing, guaranteed health care, guaranteed food, and especially with that health care, guaranteed maternity benefits. The Democrats have done it before. And I'm going to show you a picture of what it looks like when the Democrats ran exactly those things and delivered on all of them. That's what it looked like, folks. That's when the Democrats guarantee you basic income, housing, food, healthcare, and for sure maternity benefits, because they hope you have lots of babies. All right.
The general populace loves the idea.
Evidently, that didn't go over very well.
Oh my God.
Well,
We're
but
all-
stop and think about it. It comes from this mindset that I have the right to do something to you because you aren't equal to me.
Yeah.
And therefore I can take from you your liberty and make you a slave. I can take your money and use it for the purposes I want to use it for.
Okay.
I can take whatever. I can even take your life because, hey, I just don't care about you.
Okay.
You
But
know?
if we're going to do it honestly, if we're going to do it with integrity and follow our argument, then Barack Obama is actually going to have to pay reparations, not receive them. And why do I say that? Number one, Barack Obama's half white. Okay. And that's the side that actually was an American. His father never was American. His black father was a Kenyan. Okay. So his ancestry on his father's side has no bearing on this. And that's why I also say here in Oklahoma, the only ones who would actually owe any reparations would be those entities that actually approved or actually owned slaves, which would be the Indian tribes, which owned slaves. 5 of them we know for sure did. Actually 6.
If I may rise us to the higher level, the problem with reparations is that it requires us to depreciate black labor. What I
That's a
mean
good
by
point.
that is that the slavery, the slaves that existed in the beginning of slavery paid a bigger price with less benefit from the American system than the later slaves who paid a lower price and got a greater benefit from the American system. So even though the American system was built on the back, supposedly, of the slaves also ultimately benefited from the American system that was quote unquote stolen from their labor. And it's a gradient scale from those slaves that suffered worse in the beginning and those slaves that suffered less later. And so we're literally what they're asking us to do is take the offering of the black slave and depreciate it. It's sickening. We literally have to say your value is less over time because you got a value from the benefit of the amateurization of your slave labor. It's ridiculous and it dishonors the slave is what it
That's
is.
an interesting, concept. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I never looked at it from that perspective.
Nobody
real
ever
thing
does, and my wife says
that-
I'm stupid too.
Just
Yeah.
to finish my point is an attainder, and this is why all the subjective stuff and the redefinition of words and so forth is to be able to taint us as racist, as whatever, so that they can get away with charging us with these crimes that we will never be brought to court for, ever.
Okay.
They will avoid court at all costs. Why? And that's why they want to do it through the legislatures.
Yeah.
And that's why we see these activities through all of these various commission, like this commission. They're having to go outside of government because they know that they can't go and tax people for it because it's illegal. It's flatly illegal.
Right.
But it's to taint us. So look for when they're trying to taint us with something. That is an attainder, and it's specifically prohibited all the time ever in America.
Okay, and I'm going to say, every time they take away your right by saying now you have to have a license in order to do that which you were otherwise able to do, that's a form of attainder. That's you saying you have to buy back your liberty, and you have to prove to us that you are of high stature and noble character and competence. Otherwise, we're going to assume that you're incompetent, including a driver's license.
I exhort you to talk to these commissioners these board members of all of these licensing boards.
Yeah.
201 that I have spoken to, and I've spoken to a bunch of them who I didn't know before they told me they were on the board.
Mm-hmm.
And they have told me, there's one on that I can tell you about a conversation. He was on the used car dealer licensing board, and another one is heat and air conditioners and so forth. 2A1, they have this mindset that all humanity is evil and they need to control us.
Yeah.
They need to be able to dictate to the nth degree. But this idea in the
no, he cut out.
Therefore, they're legitimized in whatever they want to do. That's literally their thought process.
Classic case. Last 4 years, Nathan Dahm fighting to say that you don't need a license to braid somebody's hair. And who was it came after him? All of the beauty colleges that make a living off of selling this licensure or the requirements to meet to get a license. Everybody who already paid all that money, they despise you because you're going to get something for free that they had to pay for. And this is the problem. The government has us pitted against each other, has us despising each other. We don't want somebody else to get a liberty that we didn't have 20 years ago when we were starting out. And we can't
remember,
fall for
that
it.
was also the big issue in opening up alcohol distribution more in the state. That was the big argument. It's like, you're going to cut into our business. I'm sorry. It's all free for all for everybody. And that's the problem we had with 7088 and the things that they're doing there with marijuana. It's like, what's going to happen? I just saw a thing that was on ESPN today, or ESPN or one of the sports stations today, about the NCAA and the University of Oklahoma having to sue to have the rights to make their own television contracts back in the 70s. And Switzer was the coach and was behind all of that, wanting to go out and make their own contracts. And the NCAA was saying, well, then you're not going to get into our postseason stuff.
Right.
And they sued and won. Why?
Yes, they did.
It's a right.
Yes.
And it was restraint of trade under monopoly and the whole 9 yards. And so the NCAA was smacked down and everybody went out and made their own stuff. Those are all forms of attainder, one way or the other, but when it's done through government, it's illegal.
So the word of the day is attainder, and it doesn't mean you've attained any stature. It means you're being tainted, branded, and basically a scourge on society, and your rights aren't worth being protected anymore. That's what it was.
Think about that the next time you turn on the news and they're telling you how bad a human you are because of your color of your skin and the fact that all your predecessors and all the bad they did, and then all of you're such a polluter, and you think about every issue. They are tainting us. And the shame, and all of that, it's all to what? Set up a bill of attainder so that the public will accept it.
I don't buy shame. Okay. Not going to shame. No shame.
Hey,
no, they give it to you.
So that was a great job, Oldham, bringing us the understanding of bills of attainder. I want to remind everybody coming up in June, that is June 26th, if I'm correct. There it is, Saturday, June 26th at 4 p.m. Lawmeyer, and in the fight for Oklahoma values at the Oklahoma City Freedom Rally. It's in Norman, Oklahoma, at the Embassy Suites there. I have been in contact with Lawmeyer, and the boys here at 3D Politics have been. We are. Lawmeyer has told me that we are in with press passes.
All right.
So we are going to this rally, and I'm excited about it. It's got people that we've already interviewed on our show. Willie Montague, Dr. Willie Montague. Who else? John Bennett. etc. So this is an exciting routine hosted by Clay Clark, which has also been on our show. I'm very proud of the people that we've had on our show and the fact that we're connected with Lawmeyer, trying to unseat Langford, who has not represented us well. So here we go, boys.
Well, and I would say, I hope that we are being fair and balanced on this whole thing. Certainly, I'm keeping my powder dry. I'm waiting to see who else might enter the race.
Yes,
but the other thing is, I hope that Senator Langford will see it of value that he appear on the show and face some grilling, because we have some questions that he should answer.
And I mean, I've offered him the opportunity, but
guess who's campaigning for Langford's reelection?
I don't know.
He's got Bridenstine going out on the stump for him.
What's the deal with Bridenstine? Yeah.
Bridenstine told Oakpack a few weeks ago, said, you're not going to get better than Langford.
Bridenstine's been out of state
now,
for a while.
Bridenstine, he talked to me privately about stuff. Langford was really worried that Bridenstine was going to run against him. In fact, when, he published that first federal fumbles, Langford did, about all this waste. And he went on his book tour in late November, early December, and then he gets called back to Washington, and he fully funds all that waste that he just got done speaking against. But Bridenstine, called me up one day. We were talking, and he says, you know what he did? He had Frank Lucas come out to me on the floor when I voted against it, and he says, hey, rumor is you're running against Langford. And Bridenstine says, no, there's nothing to that. Okay. And so the thought is that Lucas then went back to Langford and told him, no, he's not running against you, and therefore Langford voted for all that government waste that he otherwise wouldn't have.
If there's any value or truth to that, what you're reporting, and I'm not doubting you, I'm just saying you're reporting what you heard, or whatever the truth is coming from there. What that tells you is that Langford cares more about one man, Bridenstine, what he does.
Well, he was threatened by Bridenstine. Bridenstine is very popular. Yeah.
Who gives a damn? Langford's job is to represent his constituents, not to care what Bridenstine does.
Right.
My God, this is not a WWE match.
There is and this is the hit. This is the hit on Langford. Is he sticks his finger up in the wind, whichever way it's blowing.
You don't ever hear from him until he's pandering. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's a problem.
The guy is absolutely the worst.
Here's my prediction. Now, Lawmeyer's making greater traction and making greater connections and a lot more publicity than I gave him any shot at, okay? If he brings the numbers down on Langford, here's the thing. This election is about Langford. It's a referendum on Langford. That's all it is. Okay. If Langford takes enough hit, somebody else is going to get in that race with more money than Lawmeyer. And it could be that Lawmeyer becomes the guy who sets up the one who actually does take out Langford.
I don't think it's about the money. I think it's the message.
Well, not for you and me, it's not.
I think it's okay. I see. I mean, again, it's always a balance. Oldham, what else you got before we get out of here?
No, that was it. And I disagree with Jim Bridenstine. We can definitely do better than Langford.
I'm with you on that.
We can definitely do better than Langford. Any one of the three of us could run and do better than Langford.
Except for me.
The thing is this.
Yeah.
Getting elected is the issue, and none of us have a statewide organization basically to turn to.
I've got one. I'm just not willing to turn it on yet. So, hey, you guys have been listening and enjoying 3D Politics Live every Monday night right here on Facebook Live with David Vann, creator and curator of SoonerPolitics.org, David Oldham, founder and scholar at constitutionalgrounds.com, and me, your verbal Viking and fine a political humorist, Tommy McKay. And you can catch me at verbalviking.com. Gentlemen, you guys ready to get out of here?
Yeah,
I am.
looking forward to next week, and hope everybody's enjoying their summer. It's going to be a lot better than last summer was.
All right, and a hat tip to all those veterans who paid the price to give us this Memorial Day. And also, we are going to Oklahoma City, the 3D Politics Press Packet, June 26th. We'll see you guys later. Take yourselves out. David Van,
Good night.
David Oldham, Tommy McKay, 3D Politics. We'll see you guys next week.